All right, so once again, welcome to QuickBooks. We are looking at the QuickBooks Complete 2021, Chapter 1, Introduction to QuickBooks. So once again, this is the book that you should be receiving from the school. It is the QuickBooks Complete 2021 book. This book is not comprehensive. It is the full-on book about QuickBooks and everything that all the features that are available in QuickBooks desktop user. Okay. And of course, in this class, there's a case study called Imagine Photography. Okay. And that's the case study that we're going to be focusing throughout the entire book itself. Right. There's a total of 16 chapters. Two of them are two different case studies. So one is Horizon and the other one is something else. But between the first 14 chapters, it's all about going to be surrounding this little company called Imagine Photography. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about the QuickBooks product lines. So in this case, right, there are a total of 5 that you need to know that are available to Intuit. Now, of course, if you go to the Intuit website itself, there is more and different ones that are available. But the primarily 5 that you need to know is going to be QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop Pro, Premier, Accountant, and Enterprise. Okay? Now, again, these 5 are primarily for what a lot of businesses use as of today. Okay? Whether it's using it online or whether it's using it using the desktop version, right, Pro, Premier, or Enterprise, okay? Now, if you go to the website today to figure out which one works best for you, you are going to be talking to a sales representative because there's also different types that you can intermix or for example, if you go in there and you answer a bunch of questions, they do actually find a program that fits your business and fits your criteria. So there are ones that are available for that. Okay? So again, there's, for example, there's QuickBooks Bookkeeping, QuickBooks Online Advanced, Self-Employed, and so on and so forth. But we are only focusing on these 5 criteria because these ones are the main ones. On the website is if you want to look into more different ones, okay? But here's a little fun fact that you do need to know that QuickBooks Premier and QuickBooks Enterprise are going to be industry-specific reports. So what does that even mean? So in this case, if you take a look at the top box of the window in the right corner, there are 6 industries that a company can belong into. So very, very straightforward, right? You could be in a general type of business. You could be in a manufacturing, a non-profit organization, or something as small as retail, right? There's a bunch of different categories or industries that you could belong into. Now, with these 6 industries, right, that allows for you as a premier or enterprise to be able to create industry-specific reports and advanced research and things like that, okay? So again, why is that? And I'll talk about that when we get into the details of those criteria, into those, what the differences are between each program, okay? But that's just a little fun fact that you need to know here, that the industry-specific ones are going to be the Premier and the Enterprise, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at what the difference between a desktop and an online version is. So a desktop is straightforward, right? It is where you have a computer and it's on that local computer device. Now, depending if it's a laptop or computer, whether it's travel friendly or not, the idea here is that the desktop is going to have the full capacity to do all the neat features and so on and so forth to maximize the ability to keep track of your income and your expenses, okay, on a local desktop. So a great example would be any office that has computers, right? And each computer is going to have a desktop version that allows the employee to be able to maximize whatever they're recording, okay? Whereas online is a cloud-based service application, okay? So again, with now looking at advancements in technology, traveling is probably the most important criteria that we can do, right? Especially if we're able to do it online, we can update our books or keep track of our books on the go. And that's a great thing because then you don't have to lug a computer or so on and so forth, okay? But the difference between the two is that you do need to have some kind of way to safeguard your files because they can contain sensitive data. So if online is something that works best for you, Intuit claims that they have a really good protected cloud-based service, so it's really secure, but it definitely allows more freedom to be able to access your account anywhere that you want to be, whether it's in the States or even overseas. You're able to do so with online, and you can have multiple people access online as well. Okay, so that's the difference between one of them is usually it's stable, but you have a lot more features that you can do, where online it's more simplistic, and it's definitely something that you can travel along the way that you can go for. Okay, so let's talk about the different versions of online. Now, as I've mentioned this before, every single online is going to be a cloud-based type of service. And as we see here, the different types of packages that you can purchase is based on, number one, how much cloud space you need to have, okay? But it's also going to be what features you can and cannot do when you have the online version. So again, with the online version, like I've mentioned before, it's much more simple. It's much more simplified to the point where all you really need to use it for is just to keep track of your income and your expenses, right? But each package is also going to be some kind of monthly subscription, okay? So here's the difference between a desktop and online. A desktop is a one-time charge only, where in this case, online is a constant subscription that you have to renew every single month or every single year, depending on what it is. Now, again, for each online package, it's going to be based on what items you need or what features that you do need. So as you can see, the very first one is going to be the simple start, which is going to be easily just recording your income and your expenses. That's it, and the very basic bookkeeping tools. But as you progress in each and every single one, you're going to see that one of them is going to can do what the previous one does, but a little extra more. So in this case, this one is for managing growing small businesses, and then this one is where you can get more things to manage projects for, especially inventory and so on and so forth. And then you get to the very last one, which is you get the most features in regards to an online application. Okay, but each package is going to have a different subscription, a different price point, and you don't need to subscribe for a whole year. You can go ahead and do a month-to-month basis, however, but the great thing about having QuickBooks Online is you can go anywhere in the world and be able to update your transactions anywhere that you want to be in the United States or overseas. Okay, so that's the great thing about having online. But the difference you need to know is it is a cloud-based service, and you must pay a subscription either annually or every month to keep up this platform. Okay. Any questions here?
No.
Okay.
No.
So now let's go ahead and talk about the desktop version. Now there are 3 desktop versions that you see right here, which is going to be the Pro, the Premier, and the Enterprise. Okay, so again, you got the Pro for 2021, Premier for 2021, and the Enterprise. Now, all of these ones, you can have a digital copy or you can get the actual disc itself. But again, now that we're, in the newer age, discs are actually a lot harder to obtain. But you do have the option to digitally download it and be able to do the same thing. So you're able to digitally download the program itself. Okay, but these ones are the desktop versions. You do have 3 of them available here, and this is the breakdown between the 3 different ones. Okay, so again, each different one serves a purpose. Okay, Pro is for more small businesses, for those that only can hold up to 14,500 items in each list. And what does that mean? It just means space, okay? How much content can each file hold or each list? In this case, Pro can only hold up to 14,500 transactions, okay? And as a small business, you might hit that point where you get 14,500 transactions, but at the end of the day, right, you're a small business. You're not going to have 14,000 employees. You're not going to have 14,000 customers or, etc., right? So that's what this means right there, this 14,500. It's just how much content you can put or utilize in QuickBooks Desktop Pro. Okay, you can hold up to 14,500 individuals or transactions. Okay, and the capabilities of this is you can only have 1 to 3 users use the file at one time. Now we'll talk about what that means in a couple minutes, but when we talk about having the desktop version, we're looking at how many people can use the exact program at the same time, or people who can use the file at one time. Now, for example, right, if you have an inventory manager and you have the HR, now, of course, each desktop that you need to have needs to have a separate program on each computer. Okay. However, if they're on the same network, which we'll talk about, okay, where they have to all share the same network, then you can have the person, the inventory manager, and the human resources be able to work on this file at the same time. Okay, so again, it helps you maximize productivity by, instead of having one person just do all the transactions, you can split the transactions between the users, and this one allows only up to 3 users to have access to the file at one time. So again, that's for small businesses, and this is a great way to start off a small business as well. Okay. Now, the second one that we're going to be taking a look at is going to be the okay. So the second one that we're going to be looking at is going to be called Premier. Premier is for more small to medium-sized types of businesses. Okay, and this one can hold up to 1 million items per list. So again, when you are a medium-sized kind of business, right? Yes, that's where, yes, you will get thousands of customers. Yes, you will get thousands of vendors. And you could possibly have maybe 100 or some kind of employees. Again, it is for a small to medium-sized kind of business structure. And that's what this book is going to teach you, is to be in between the small and the very large one, okay? But in this case, right, it can hold up to 1 million items per list, or per list. So that means you could have 1 million customers, 1 million employees, 1 million vendors, okay? And with a million transactions involving those people, okay? And then this time, this one can allow 3 to 5 users to access the file at one time. So again, in a small to medium-sized kind of business, right, you'll have the HR, you'll have the sales representative, you'll have the inventory manager, right? You'll have people who need to run the business. And this allows you to have 3 to 5 users have access to the file at one time. Okay? We also talked about the 150 plus industry specific reportings, especially when you are establish yourself as a medium-sized kind of business. You need to fall under a specific industry, whether you're retail, whether you're manufacturing, or whether you're just a general type of business that provides services, right? You will fall under to a criteria. And the best thing about having more than 150 plus industry specific reports is that you have reports that are tailored to how your business should be run. Okay? And of course, you also have forecasting, and this one allows you to have mobile tracking. So again, this does involve with technology. So again, it's not like you're accessing your file online, but what mobile tracking does is it allows you to scan your receipts, or to take pictures of your receipts and then upload them to your actual computer later on. Okay, so that's what this is. It's not for you to enter in your transactions while you're on the go. No. Mobile tracking allows you to take those pictures. Yes. Question?
Yes, I do have a question. If I would like my accountant to have access to my QuickBooks,
Uh-huh.
can he do it here?
Yes, you can. And we'll talk about that real quick, okay?
I'm sorry if I jump.
No. You're fine. So again, every single file is gonna every single type of um QuickBooks Desktop allows you to create an accountant's copy. So when after the slide, I'll talk about what the accountant's version is, okay? So in this case right here, we have mobile tracking, okay, so which allows you to have your phone and go and take pictures of receipts or transactions that occur, save them, and then you can upload it to the actual your actual QuickBooks when you get to your desktop. Okay, so that's the cool feature about that one. And then of course the enterprise, which is the biggest one, okay, is meant for big businesses such as corporations. Okay, and this will can hold definitely more than 1 million transactions per list. So again, you can have billions, right? And it can hold up to 30 users to have access to the file at the same time. And then you still have the 3 key features that the Premiere does. So in this case, right, if I'm dealing with 1 million transactions as a corporation, right, you have the CFO, you have the CEO, you have the, HR, you have the Department of Marketing, you have a bunch of different users that can access the QuickBooks file at one time. So this one allows up to 30 users to have access to the file. And you can put in 1 billion transactions per list. Okay, so that's the cool feature of Enterprise, okay? But for this class, we're just going to be strictly looking at Premiere because, again, we're looking at a business as if we are definitely starting out our own company, or we're just looking at the very basics of what a small business, small to medium-sized business can do. Okay. So, any questions in regards to the 3 different types of desktop versions?
No.
So now we can go ahead and talk about the accountant's version. The accountant's version is mostly used for the IRS. Okay? So this is where, for those 3 programs that we took a look at for a company, these 3 different types of program, right? Again, you can have all 3 if you'd like. You can actually start from a pro, and then as your business grows, you can upgrade to a premier. And then again, if you go up to corporate status, then you can upgrade your premier to enterprise. There's no point to have all 3 available to you, because just the way that it is, you're better off just having one out of the 3 programs, okay? Whichever one fits your business. But all 3 of them have the capability to create what's called the accountant's copy. And the accountant's copy is where the accountant's version of QuickBooks is allowed to have access to all 3 different types of desktop versions. So once again, and you can even, with the accountant's version, you can switch from a pro, premier, and enterprise. So that's why this one is going to be the golden one. But again, for this class, if you are downloading the 2021 version, you guys actually get the Premier Accountant's copy. Okay? You guys got lucky for this time around. Yes.
Does that mean you have to purchase the accountant's copy separately?
This one, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, this one, right, with the student free 5-month trial, you get it free with the book. So you get the accountant's copy. Yes, you do. Okay. But if you're talking about for future, the accountant's version is more geared towards for the IRS / any accounting firm out there that does taxes, because again, the accountant's version is able to be able to access pro files, premier files, and enterprise files. Now, we'll talk about files in a few minutes later on. But in this case, that's the only reason that you would use the accountant's version if you are working for the IRS or for some kind of accounting firm. Then you would have this copy, so you have access to all the 3 different types of desktop versions. And of course, you can even create transactions for all 3 of them and be able to send the copy back to that individual based if they're a pro, premier, or enterprise. So that's the cool thing about accountant, is the flexibility of switching between the different programs. Okay? So that's the cool thing there. Yes.
So the desktop version, you have like 3 or 5, 1 to 3 or 3 to 5 users. You can assign your accountant that works for you as one of the user, right?
Correct, and we'll talk about that in chapter 12.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No worries. No, they're great questions, Ken, because yes, it's fine. But yes, in chapter 12, I'll talk about who's the one that's creating the actual file and how you can create users for that file. Yes, we'll talk about that in chapter 12. Okay. So that's the difference between the desktops. Now, Accountant is a desktop version. Okay, so please, it's not an online version. It is a desktop version, but again, it's only usually available for IRS or people who work for accounting firms. Okay, so this one's a very, very pricey one, and even if you go on Amazon or something like that, you cannot find a copy. You do have to go through the Intuit and say that you are working for the IRS or for the accounting or a accounting firm for you to have access to this accountant's version. Okay, so again, that is the difference between the 5 different versions of QuickBooks. Yes. I'm sorry, what was that? What was that word again? Okay, so taxes. Okay, if you are doing taxes for people, the funny thing about this is for QuickBooks, QuickBooks is a tax program. Okay, it makes it easier for you to file for taxes. Do you need to have the accountant's version to file taxes? Absolutely not. Having Pro, Premier, or Enterprise can help you file taxes a lot more easier. Okay, so each program as a business, yes. But if you, the one that is working for the IRS or working for a tax accounting firm, and you're doing taxes for other companies, then yes, you would need the accountant's version. But in this case, if you're just doing taxes for yourself as the business, Pro, Premier, and Enterprise is going to be a program that helps you file taxes 10 times faster than a regular than doing accounting manually or any other program. Yes. If you're doing it for the people, the accountant's version is what you need. So if you're doing taxes for other people, you need the accountant's version. But if you're doing taxes for yourself as the business, all you need is either one of these three, Pro, Premier, or Enterprise, because they all are a tax-based type of program. No, I will not teach you how to do tax in this class because I'm teaching you how to use the basic functions of QuickBooks, which is to enter in income, expenses, payroll, things like that. But I'm not going to be teaching you tax in this class. No. Yes, I would be teaching you the accounting as well. No taxes. In this case, if you're looking at accounting for the as if you're looking at accounting as you've never heard of accounting and you're looking at the basic needs, you need to know the basic fundamentals of accounting before you can even do tax. But these programs help you file tax a lot more quicker. Okay?
So, ma'am, may I ask a question?
Go for
before
it.
you proceed? So, if I would like to open up a business as a tax preparer, the accountant's copy is the one that I should have.
For sure, 100%.
Okay.
But here's the thing, you are running a business for tax preparation. You're not preparing the taxes yourself. Then no, you don't need the accountant's version because you're just doing what expenses, what income are you generating from just your business as a tax preparer. You're not physically you're not using the QuickBooks to prepare taxes for other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that would be another application. I understand.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the next section, which is going to be your QuickBooks release. Now, again, when you have programs that are readily available, whether you download it, whether you you purchased it online, or whether you bought the disc and you download it, every program that is released will always have some kind of bug in the program or some kind of glitch in the program. And that's what a release number is. A release number is where if someone who's a frequent avid user of QuickBooks and they find an issue that that they're trying to enter in a transaction and it's not working for them, they go report it to Intuit themselves and they go put it on like a blackboard or like some kind of like board where people can add in things that are having problems with the actual program itself. And what happens is that QuickBooks is going to require you to update your program to fix those bugs. So releases are patches for any problems that they have within the program. And how do you figure that number out? The only key that you're going to be needing to know in this book is going to be the F2 function key. So that should be right above the number keys above on your keyboard. It's going to be the F2 function key. And that's going to pop up this screen right here. Now, again, how do you read it? It's going to give you every single details in regards to the actual QuickBooks program yourself. So for example, here's an example right here of a screenshot of a program right here that says right here that was a QuickBooks Desktop Pro 2019 release R1, okay, out of 22. Meaning I have not, for this program right here, I'm only on the first release out of 22 releases for the 2019 Pro. Okay? And as you can see here, it gives me my actual license number. It gives me my actual product number. And it also gives me the date that I actually installed the program. So in this case, I installed this program since September 19 of 2019. Okay? And this is the exact number that you need to have. Now, this number is very important, especially when you go and talk to your representative, right? So if you have issues, you call tech support. They're going to ask you for all of these numbers, and you need to have this information for them to help you fix your program. Okay? So again, the release is going to be the number of patches that people have found problems with the program. So in this case, I've only downloaded the first release out of 22 releases that are available. Okay? And every program that you download is going to have some kind of release number on it regardless. So if you're downloading the program today, you're probably going to be downloading the most up-to-date recent release at that time. Okay? So that's that right there. Now we'll talk more about what this actually does too, because this also allows you to see the information that you're currently working on your data file. So the number of items that you have here, the number of lists, the people, it's going to give you all that information. It's also going to give you how big is this file? What's the amount of content that you have in this file? Okay, it's going to give you all of those descriptions down below. Okay, but other than that, this is how you determine your release number. And for any reason that you need to, so in this case, I have never needed to update the release or the program itself, just because I was able to do everything and teach everything within the program without having any issues or problems. So in this case, right, obviously I'm not going to teach you the 2019 Pro. I am going to teach you the Premiere 2021 version. Again, this is just an example of what the F2 key button does. It pops up this little screen that shows you all the information that you need to know about this program. Okay, and what release dates that you need to have. Okay, all right. Any questions?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, so again, we're going to talk about the accounting behind the scenes, or the accounting focus that you need to know the basic understanding in order to use this program. Now, for this program, you do not absolutely need to have any accounting experience or any accounting background whatsoever for this program, because this program is geared towards taxation, and it's very simple because the way that it's being taught and the way that you just enter in things, the QuickBooks is going to do the work for you behind the scenes. All you need to understand is the real nature of how a transaction works. So if you sell something, then that's all you need to know is you need to enter in a sales form, okay? Because you achieved and you acquired income, okay? If you spent money, then you just go ahead and enter in that you received a bill and you need to pay for it. Straightforward, but you do not absolutely need an accounting background to be able to utilize QuickBooks. So, for example, Orlando, you are here today on behalf of learning billing and coding, which has nothing to do with accounting, but it does have the basic knowledge of understanding how to charge, how to bill, how to get your money from for the services that you provided. That's the basics that you need to know, is the very fundamentals of how a transaction works. So if I sold a product, I just need to type in a sales form. If I received money, for what reason, whether I sold something or people owe me money, then I record that I received money. If I owe money, I record a bill. Straightforward. You do not need an accounting background. And the purpose of this is that when you do go apply for a company, they're going to teach you how they use the program. Okay? They're not going to tell you, they're not going to assume that you know anything, because it's all about the training process. Is that just because you know how to do QuickBooks, I'm going to train you how we, the company, uses QuickBooks. So there's a huge difference when you're learning this, but the thing about understanding about the program is at least you can be able to manipulate it. You're able to do more than what the company requires and asks of you. But in most cases, you are going to be trained to use QuickBooks the way that the company wants you to know it. So if they only want you to strictly know to record bills and record that you're receiving payments, then that's the section you're only going to be focusing on. But in this case, right, that's what I mean by this. You do not need to have any accounting background whatsoever to be able to do, use QuickBooks. However, the accounting does help tremendously. Yes. You have a question? You can, yeah, that's fine too, as long as you can understand how whatever transaction that comes at you. So if, for example, I need to pay for rent, right? Then you need to make sure that you understand how to be able to enter something into QuickBooks that way. But no, you absolutely do not need to have the accounting background. But let me tell you, with the accounting background, it makes you a little higher because you're able to manipulate QuickBooks the way that you want QuickBooks to work for you. Because if you don't have the accounting background, then you're telling the program is telling you what to do. The company's telling you what to do. Okay? You can just be a general bookkeeper. Again, you could, if in this case, that's what this class is. It's just so you can get the very basic knowledge to just be able to bookkeep. And that's what this program can help you do. However, you can apply for the inventory manager. You could apply for HR. You can apply for sales representative. You could be anything you want to be. You can even apply your position as an accountant. I'm sorry? Working where? So do you say night? Night? Like bike?
I think she said bank.
Oh, if you're going to be working in a bank, no, you don't need QuickBooks. Yes, it will definitely help you get into that position. But again, QuickBooks is not going to help you because you don't need to know QuickBooks if you're applying for a bank job. If you are doing if you're a bank bond dealer, a broker, we call them a broker, you may need to know QuickBooks. But for just like if you're doing a bank teller, no. All you need to know is how to count money. Okay? So in this case, right, so we talked about, you don't necessarily need to have an accounting background to be able to use QuickBooks. However, the accounting knowledge does help you understand the flow of transaction, and it allows you to manipulate QuickBooks to work for you versus the QuickBooks working you. Okay, so in this kind of sense, is in case for any mistake that you do in QuickBooks and you don't know how to fix it, that's where understanding the accounting background will help you be able to fix the problem, no problem, with no issues or anything. Okay. Now, again, like I mentioned before, you absolutely do not need to know the accounting background, but here are the things that the book suggests that you should at least know the basics, okay? Which is going to be if you made a sale and you received cash, then you're going to and exchange it for an item, then you're just going to record the purchase example, okay? So when we talk about what accounting information that you do need to know is you need to know the 5 types of accounts, okay? Assets, liabilities, equity, income, also known as revenues, but in QuickBooks, it's straightforward, it's referred as income. And you need to know what expenses are. So again, assets are going to be things that you own into the company. So whether it is owning the bank account, owning inventory, owning property, owning the equipment to run your business, right? Those are things that you acquire that you have ownership over, okay? Liabilities are going to be everything that you owe, whether you owe people on an account, you owe the bank money for a loan, and so on and so forth. And especially when you owe sales tax, right? That money's not yours. It belongs to the state and the local government that you're paying to do business. So that's going to be considered a liability, things that you owe other people for. And then equity is going to be known as your net worth, okay? It's what your company is valued at, okay? So things that affect equity would be if you had income or like a profit and you want to reinvest that money into your company, then you're adding value to your company. So that's what equity does, okay? Income is a means to generate money into the company. And expenses are going to be things you had to pay for in order to operate your business. So a great example would be rent expense, right? That is an expense that you must acquire to do in order for you to have a shop for you to open up and operate to sell the product that you're selling in the store. So again, these are the 5 things that you need to know. Do you need to know it in the specific order? You do need to know them for the sake of creating your chart of accounts. And your chart of accounts we'll talk about in a few more minutes down below. Okay? And yeah, yes.
Would costs of expenses, would costs equal expenses?
Uh, it depends. Yes, yes, yes. Cost of goods sold. So if you sold your inventory, is going to be considered your expense, right? Whatever it cost you, or whether you spent it, used it, or got rid of it, is going to be determining as your expenses, correct? Equity is going to be the value, the net worth of your company. So if I invested $25,000 into my company, that means my company is worth $25,000. Okay, so it's just your net worth. Now, do not confuse equity with property management equity, right? Equity, right, when you buy an item, right, or you buy a house, right, for $100,000. Equity would be whatever you gain value to. So in this case, if my house, if I sell it for $250,000, right, when it was worth $100,000, I gained equity of $150,000. No, do not use equity like property management, because that is not what this is saying. This is saying what the actual worth of your company is if you have investments, if you put money into your company, if you take money away from your company, that's going to be determining what equity is. It's just the value of your company. Yes.
Would that mean equity is equals assets minus liabilities?
That is correct. And that's what we're going to talk about right now is going to be the accounting equation. Okay? Now, that's one way of looking at the accounting equation is that your equity will equal everything that you own minus everything that you owe, right? That's the same thing as this accounting equation right here. But in this accounting equation is we're trying to determine this, that the total amount of assets that you own must equal to everything that you owe to other people and the net worth of your company, right? Vice versa, you could say it like that as well. But in accounting, this is the standard form accounting formula that you must know at all times, because this accounting equation must hold true wherever you are in business, whether you're doing a transaction today, whether you're doing a transaction for the month, or you're doing your report at the end of the year. This equation must hold true at all times. Okay? And this one is going to be assets equals liabilities plus equity. But yes, you can refer this equation to equity equaling assets minus liabilities. It's the same thing, same formula. Right? But this one is very important, especially when we do one of the financial statements, which we'll talk about in chapter 6, which is going to be the balance sheet. Okay? All right. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. So before we can even begin to even record or put in any transactions into our QuickBooks, we need to create what's called a chart of accounts, which is going to be a list of all the accounts that exist that gives you a way to organize a business transaction. So again, we talked about how sales equals money, right? Sales equals cash. There you go. You need to have a cash account and a sales account to be able to record that you made a sale and you earned cash for it. Okay? So making sure that your chart of accounts gives you a way to be able to organize a business transaction in a meaningful way. All right? And again, it is organized by account type. Okay? Always, always. It will always be in order by account type. Now in chapter 7, we'll talk about how you can reorganize or reorder the chart of accounts. But by default, it is always going to be assets first, liabilities next, equity after, income, and then expenses in that exact order. Okay? Right. Then we got to talk about using the double entry system of accounting. This is where when we go dive into accounting, we need to understand, right? It's just like applying science, right? If you have one action, you need to have an equal and opposite reaction, right? So in this case, when we're talking about the double entry system, we're talking about if you're going to be crediting one account, you need to have an equal and opposite debit. Okay, or you need to dip into one or more accounts, or when you're transferring one amount of money, you need to place it somewhere. Okay, so that's the idea where you need to make sure when you do your accounting, your total debits must equal your total credits. So in this rule, you don't necessarily need to have one account go into another account. It could be one or more accounts. But at the overall idea is you need to have an equal and opposite transaction. Okay, so for example, right, if we sold something for cash, right, we received $27.06. But what does that consist of? it consists of sales. So I actually sold a product, but I also had to charge tax. Tax is not money that's mine. Tax is money that I owe to the state and local agency. So in this case, my tax is going to be calculated separately because this is not my money. This is money that I owe. So in this case, adding these two numbers together gives you a total of the $27.06. So again, your total debits must equal your total credits. And that's what the double entry system says. It says that, okay, I didn't just receive cash. I had to receive cash because of a reason. And what was that reason? I sold something. Okay? So again, a action must have an equal and opposite reaction. And that's where the debits must equal the total credit rule. Okay? And you have to also make sure you don't refer to increase and decrease as debits is increase and credits are decrease. No. It depends on the account that you're looking at to be able to determine what it means to increase or decrease. Now in this case, right, my cash, I obviously increased it because I received cash. But at the same time, I also increased my sales. Okay? And I used a credit for that. Okay? So what am I talking about? I'm talking about this. This is the guideline to understanding how a transaction works is by using the accounting model. All right? So in this case, this is the accounting model where each account type has a specific direction or a specific way to either increase the account or decrease the account. So in this case, my assets, right, are always going to increase using a debit. So think of it, right? If I received money, then I'm going to debit my account. If I'm going to spend my money, then I'm going to credit my account. Okay? Do not confuse this as being the consumer, right? You are the person that's selling the product, not being on the other end. You're not the customer, okay? So a great example of the difference between that is that why is this so? When I look at my own bank account and they tell me when I pay my bank account or when I receive money, I'm crediting my account. That's you looking at the bank side. That is you being a consumer. But on the bank side, you're debiting the account and you're crediting if you spend the money. Okay? So that's the difference that you need to know is who are you in this position? Are you the consumer or are you the business? In this case, our main focus here is we are the business, okay? So you need to understand that assets are increased using a debit and then are decreased when you spend the money by crediting, all right? And that's going to be different for every single account that you're looking at. So that's just looking at assets. What if I owe money? If I owe money, it's going to be increased using a credit. So we just talked about sales, right? Sales is considered income. It is increased by a credit. Where our sales tax payable, which was something that we owe to the government, was increased using a credit. Okay? So again, if you understand, this is how we understand the flow of a transaction is, well, how does it meet or how does it make the double entry system work? If our total debits must equal our total credits, this is how the transaction is going to be separated. Okay? I increased my revenues or my income. I've increased my sales tax. At the same time, I increased my cash flow. So again, I have my positive in credits and I have my positive in my debit. So therefore, I have my equal and opposite debit to credit ratio. Okay. So again, this is for those who are going to go into my accounting class. This will make more sense later on, but for now, this is what the book tells you. This is what the basic necessary things that you need to know just to be able to understand the real basics of how QuickBooks is being used. Okay? All right? So next section is going to be the cash versus the accrual basis. Cash basis is when you record transactions when cash is readily available to spend, or when cash is, especially when you record revenues, is when cash is received. Okay, so a great example of this would be any local mom and pop shop that says cash only, meaning they only accept sales if it's cash, if they receive cash, and they only spend the money to buy stuff, whether it's supplies or any expenses they have to pay for rent. They only use it on a cash basis because they only have that money available. Okay? Now, the accrual basis basically says that I will record a revenue or income even if whether I received cash or not, because in this case, I earned it. So if I got rid of my item, I earned it, whether or not I received cash or not. So this is more for more people who are on credit accounts. So again, if we understand accounts receivable and accounts payable, right? Accounts receivable is when customers owe me money. Accounts payable is when you owe other people money or other vendors. Now in this case, that's exactly what this idea says, is that even though I sold my product and I did not receive cash for it because they owe me on an account, I still earned it because I still sold it at the end of the day. So that's how we have to understand accrual basis. Same thing with the expenses, right? Expenses are usually things that other vendors can do for you, whether you purchase something or whether you had them complete a task for you. An expense, so in this case, right, I will record it as soon as I receive a bill. So if I got a contractor and they completed the job for me and they bill me, it's going to tell me that whenever the job was completed, meaning incurred the minute that it happened, the day that it happened, I'm going to record that expense, whether or not I paid for it or not. Okay? So, and by default, the best way to maximize to use QuickBooks is to run on an accrual type of basis. If you run a cash basis, your only transactions that you'll be using are only two: your checking account and your sales receipt, and that's it. You won't be able to do anything else because you don't need to. You don't need to enter a bill because you're paying right at time of service. So you're just going to take your checkbook and write them a check. You don't need to go through enter bills. So in this case, you're going to lose out on the opportunities that QuickBooks can offer with all the features, because if you're running a cash basis, you're only limited to 2 features or 2 functions in QuickBooks. QuickBooks is meant for you to maximize the functionality to record a transaction, and the best way to do it is using an accrual type of basis to record when things happen, whether you paid or not, to record income right then and there, whether you received cash or not. Okay, and again, by default, QuickBooks is going to be by default the default for the accrual type of basis. Okay. Right. Any questions so far?
No. Okay. Yes. Is interest considered as accrual?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because interest, right? Depending if you're looking at interest from your bank loan, that for sure is something that you owe money to, right? You didn't pay it right then and there, and they usually charge it to your account without letting you know, right? It's automatically included into the bill. So in this case, yes, it's an accrual type of basis. But if you're paying interest right then and there, then no, you would use cash basis. Okay, but for most cases,
that makes sense.
But for most cases, you end up receiving the bill and it tells you how much interest they charged you. Okay. All right. So, accounting in QuickBooks. As a person who is using QuickBooks, you are going to be looking at using QuickBooks as a single entry system. Okay? But QuickBooks is a double entry type of system. It just does the work behind the scenes for you. And this is why you absolutely do not need to have the accounting experience, is because since you're looking at it as a single view, you don't need to know what works in the background because you will not see it. Okay? The way that you enter in a transaction is pretty straightforward, right? You need to bill somebody, you just do an invoice. You received a bill from a company, you just enter it in a bill. If you need to create memos, then therefore you go ahead and proceed so. If you need to write a check, you just enter it in the check. QuickBooks will do everything and calculating all of that stuff, all the debits and credits that you see. QuickBooks will do it for you behind the scenes. Will you get to see it? No. Can you see it? Yes. You can run what's called a journal transaction report that allows you to see where your debits and where your credits go. But that is only if you want to see that transaction. You don't need to if you're the accountant itself and you understand how the flow of transactions works. Okay? But for most cases, if you don't know any of it, you don't need to, because you're just going to be entering in your transactions through one of these forms. Yes. Forms. I'm going to talk about that in a couple minutes. Invoice? I can't hear you.
She's talking about memos. What are
Oh,
those?
memos. Okay, so when we talk about sales, okay, you can create what's called a credit memo, which is when you refund your customer money. Refund, correct. Return money. Because you're just very, very tiny in my headphones. You're very, very tiny. I'm sorry, I did not catch that. What was that? I can hear you, but I can't hear everything that you say.
Yeah, she sounds very distant.
Yes.
Hello?
There you go. Now I can
Yeah.
hear
That's
you.
better.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I see why.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry.
No worries. So again, yes. So those are that right there. Okay. So QuickBooks files. What are the 3 QuickBooks files? There are a total of 3. Now, in this case, there's really only one that you need to completely understand and know, and that's going to be the working data file. Okay? The other 2 data files that you see are just copies of the working data file. Okay? So at the end of the day, no matter what you're looking at, you're only looking at the working data file. The working data file is going to be a file that you create, and when you create it, this is where you're entering all of your transactions. So this is the one that you're going to be frequently updating. Okay? And we call that a working data file, also known as QBW. Okay? For working data file. Okay? Now, if you need to make a backup copy, which is again going to be a safeguard for making sure that you're, in case one day your computer decides to crash or the internet decides to fault on you and it ruins or corrupts your file, you're going to create a copy of the working data file, and you're going to call that a backup file, which when you save it, you're usually going to save it either on another desktop or a flash drive or something else. And the backup is just a copy of the working data file, okay? So what do you mean by that? It basically saves all the files that you worked up to a point. You create the copy of it, so then when you do, for any reason, lose the working data file, or it's corrupted, it cannot work, your computer crashed on you in the middle of while you were doing your transaction, you're able to open up your backup file, and it's going to be whatever date that you backed it up for, whatever information that you saved prior to that. So again, anything that you work on, your backup's not going to save automatically for you, because you have to create the copy of the working data file. Okay? Yes.
Does this mean only for desktop files, right?
Correct.
Not the online files.
No, because in this class we're looking at Premiere desktop version.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are we also going to discuss online?
No.
later?
No, because this class is to learn the desktop version, not online.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So again, these are the files that we're going to be looking at, right? If you need to make a copy for any reason that your computer decides to shut down on you, whatever reason, then that's what the backup copy is. Okay? Now, in this case, every copy that you make of the working data file, the more you add to the working data file, the bigger and heavier the file gets, right? If you can hold about 14,000 items in there, imagine how big of a file that's going to be. Now, of course, you can do the third option, or the second option, which is to create a portable file. Now, what does the use of a portable file do? It basically makes a copy of the current working data file, and what it does is it shrinks it, compresses it to a small portable file that you can use to either email it to your other coworkers, you can send it to other people, you can send it to your accountant. You can do a lot with a portable file, especially when you're uploading it or sending it online. So that's why the Google Classroom, I'm able to upload all of the information on there for you guys to download, because it's in a form of a portable file. Much easier to obtain. Now, at the end of the day, whether you're trying to open up a backup or open up a portable file, what you're doing here is you're recreating a brand new working data file from these copies. Okay, so that's why it is very crucial that you know that the real one is the working data file. So if you create a copy of the backup, right? And let's say this file gets ruined. You open up the copy is going to create a new working data file with all the content that you had saved on there. Same thing with the portable, right? You created a copy of it and made into a portable. You take that portable, it's going to open everything back up and create a new working data file. Okay? Now, for any reason that you are doing this, okay, the one thing that you need to know is that if you are working on your current working data file, it will save your transaction whenever you'd like. It will automatically do it for you, okay? Because it is using Intuit's cloud-based services to help you save the file on your account, okay? So that's the thing here. You don't need to press Control Save all the time. It will save your transactions as you go through each transaction. However, if you are trying to save a copy, that's where the backup data is going to come up. So here, QBB, which is QuickBooks Backup. And then if you're trying to send it to somebody, you're going to create a copy of it and send it through Portable, which I don't know why they use QBM, but, you know, it's a portable working data file, okay? Now, in this case, can you update the backup? No. Can you update the portable file? No. You can only update the working data file. So again, these two right here, the portable and the backup, are just copies of the working data file. Okay? And then this also works for if you have certain different different programs. So if I have a working data file for Pro, I can use Premiere to open it up. Okay? However, if I make changes on Premiere, I will, and I'm trying to use Pro, I 100% cannot open that file. Cannot open. So again, Pro is stage 1, Premiere is stage 2, and then Enterprise is stage 3. You can go up in programs, but you cannot go down in programs. Okay? So for example, I've been, last couple classes, I've been using Pro to open or Premiere to open up Pro, but no vice versa. I can only use a newer version to update my other files too. So if I currently have a 2018 and file, but I'm using 2021 version, I can update the 2018 version to the 2021 version, but once I do that, I cannot use the 2018 program to open a 2020 file. Okay? So you can only go up in program and you can only go up in addition. So if I have 2019, I can only go up to 2021. Okay? And the great thing about this too is this is the question that a lot of people ask is if the program updates every year with a new edition, right? So right now because it's the year 2022, we got the Pro 2022. Okay? Does that mean my company also has to upgrade my program to the latest and greatest software? No. Because of this rule right here, you can have files that are outdated up to 3 years and be able to use it. Therefore, the company does not need to invest couple $1,000s just to update all the programs every year. You can do it recommended at least every 3 years. Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay.
I have one, please.
Yes.
So just for a review, if your data files are corrupted, you can use your backup.
Correct.
And at the same time also be able to use your portable. Either or,
Whichever one makes it convenient for you. But if you're trying to save space on your flash drive, I would recommend you to do a portable file than a backup file. Okay. But again, it is a safeguard for your assets. It's because when you're creating a backup, you can tell the program to do backups behind the scenes for you automatically instead of having you physically go and back up your company file at all times. So imagine this, if you're Walmart, right, that has 1 billion transactions every day and you're allowing multiple people have access to it, what is the likelihood of it crashing? Very high, because you have too many transactions being put in, too many users being using on there, and then that's what the backup is usually for. And they may back it up like 4 or 5 times a day because of the amount of transactions they're putting in at the same time. Okay. Now,
so you can use an external drive.
Correct.
Or offsite.
Correct.
Offsite bank.
Absolutely, and they recommend you, especially if you're doing backups, to put it on that external bank drive. Yes.
Sorry, you did record all this, right?
Yes.
Now that we record the class and I will find it because I lost. It's like too much information.
This is being recorded right now.
Oh, all like what is gone?
Everything that we've said in this entire class is being recorded right now.
start now or?
Since we started the lecture, it's been since we started the lecture, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So then again, another second thing that you need to always have at all times. Back then, it was much more easier to be able to enter in transactions free, like without having internet. But again, because now today, with today's society and the technology being so advanced and internet being so easily available, you need to have the internet at all times to run QuickBooks as a program. If you do not have internet, you are unable to enter in a lot of the transactions because it requires the internet to be able to send signals to the cloud to save your work automatically for you. Okay, so you need to have internet at all times in order to run QuickBooks. Can you run it without it? Yes, you can, but like I've mentioned before, you're going to be very limited to the amount of transactions that you can enter. So I know, for example, when I was teaching this class and the internet went out, a lot of the features you cannot do, and it gets grayed out because you don't have the internet to be able to do the functions. Okay, so it's very important that you do have some kind of internet supply wherever you are when you are recording transactions. Okay.
So, ma'am,
Yes.
may I expound on that? You mean to say if I have to enter data or fill up a form, I should have internet access,
100% yes.
and then that goes to the cloud.
Yes. Now this cloud
How
is
different is that? How different is that from the online?
okay, so here Intuit, when you download the program, right, it's gonna ask you to create an Intuit account. That's just so then you can register the program in there. And when you register the program into your account, they give you like free space. It's like when you sign up for a Microsoft account, they let you have free stuff, right? Or Google even included, right? They let you have a free space to do certain things. That's exactly what they're doing here. They're just letting you so that when you do your transactions, you don't lose your data as you go through. But you're not paying for a subscription because the online version is where you can travel with your phone, with your laptop, or whatever it is, right? And access your stuff online. In this case, it's just saving things on the cloud, just in case for any reason that you lose your file, right? It doesn't pull the information from there, it pulls it from the cloud. Does that make sense? So again, the difference between, the difference. So this is just giving you extra space so it could save your work. And then for any reason that you have issues with this exact file, the person on the tech support can access your cloud and be able to help you fix your file. Okay? But for most cases, yes, you do need to have the internet so it has the automatic save for you. So you don't have to save it yourself. Okay. Now let's talk about opening files in QuickBooks. So we talked about the 3 different types of files, right? When you do actually go into this section right quick, you are going to be given 3 options to either open a working data file, you can open a portable or a backup file. So these gives you the 3 options, okay? And we'll talk more about this tomorrow when we actually dive in looking at the actual program. But now it's asking you, okay, how do you restore a backup? Well, there you go. You go to File and you go Open or Restore, and it will give you these 3 options, and you're going to select the option that you are going to be opening, okay? So that's just how you do that, and same thing with a portable file. And I'm going to show you this again tomorrow because that way you could actually physically see where how to create and how to save those files, okay? All right. So now let's talk about user interface. The user interface is going to be what or how are you going to be entering transactions into QuickBooks? So when we first open QuickBooks, this is what it should open up to look like. Okay, you got a bunch of icons in the middle right here. You got a list on the left panel, and then you have this gray bar that has your file, your edits, your view, and all that, etc., right? A standard look of a program, okay? Now, I'm going to break this program up into 3 sections, okay? First one's going to be the home page. The home page is going to be your graphic depiction of a transaction. So this is going to be your number one go-to place in order to enter in your transaction because, once again, this you do not need accounting background. All you need to understand is how does a flow of transaction work. So as you can see, the home page is broken into 5 different sections. The top being your vendors / expenses, okay? Where if you enter a bill, follow that line through, that means you got to pay the bill. Straightforward, right? The middle section is your customers, where if you bill a person, then you're going to receive the money, then you're going to deposit that money into your bank. Straightforward in regards to understanding the flow of a transaction. The bottom part is going to be your employees, right? If you gotta enter in the time for them that they did their shift on, you gotta pay them, and then you gotta pay the liabilities for having employees, okay? And then you have company on the top right, and then your bank account or banking section as your bottom right. Okay, so again, we're going to talk more about the home page, and we're going to be using the home page a lot for the transactions that we go through in each chapter. Okay, so this is the home page. It's a graphic depiction of the flow of a transaction. Okay. Then we're going to talk about the left panel, which is going to be your icon bar. Your icon bar is going to be your shortcuts, okay? Shortcuts to specific, whether it's a center, whether it's an item is or a list of something, okay? It's a shortcut to it, okay? And we refer this to the icon bar because, as you can see, you got icons, and then you have the area that you want to go to. So if you want to see your company, you can get an overview right there. You want to look at your income tracker. If you want to look at your calendar, okay? And we'll talk more about the icon bar and what you can do, and you can customize it so it makes it easier for you to enter transaction or to go to specific areas, okay? You cannot enter transactions into icon bars, okay? But it is a way for you to navigate to get to that end result, okay? And then last but not least, we have the menu bar, all right, which is going to be at the top of the page. Again, the blue is your title bar. It lets you know what file, what program, what file that you're currently on, and what program you're in, okay? So you know at all times which one that you're working on, okay? And then underneath that in the gray is your file, your edit, your view. Then you have your company, your customers. So this is going to be a list of every single transaction that you can create in QuickBooks. So it's just like, you know, if you're looking at a Microsoft application, right? Every single menu item that you have on there gives you a task that you can do. Okay? Same thing here. All right? Straightforward. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about what centers are. Now, centers are going to be basically areas or places for you to be able to enter your transactions. So the major 3 ones that we do see in this class is going to be your vendor center, which, as you can see, it gives you a little area right here. We'll talk about each vendor center, customer and employee center as we go through the chapters in every single chapter. So in this case, vendors is chapter 4, customers is chapter 2, and employees is chapter 10. we're going to take a look now. As you can see, it gives you a rough overview of each person that's involved into your vendor list. Okay, so we call those centers. Now there's other centers such as bank fees that allow you to keep in contact with all your credit cards, your bank accounts, and so on and so forth. You got a report center, which allows you to create any report, allows you to create any report, right? And then you have inventory center, which gives you a list of all the inventory items that you sell in your store. So again, this is a way that you can have access or enter in a transaction. Okay. Now let's talk about actually entering a transaction. Okay. Just because we looked at how we can navigate our way there, this is actually going to be how we enter in the transaction. So the very first one you're going to be dealing with is going to be forms. Forms are pretty straightforward. It's just like going to the doctor's office, right? You're trying to fill out an application. That's exactly the same idea. You got to fill in your vendor. You're going to fill in what class they are, what date that you had the transaction, what's the transaction code, what items you're purchasing, what was the description, how much the price of the item is. You're filling all this information in a form. And that's it. That makes it straightforward because all you have to do is just fill in the bubbles. And then you can hit save and close or save and new. Okay? We'll talk about the difference between these two later on in chapter 4. Okay? But that's how you fill in. There's purchase forms, there's sales forms, bill forms. Every single transaction you can think of that could be in a sense of a form. Okay. Yes.
Can you import data from another app?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And that's the second part that I'm going to talk about right now, which is lists. So here, list is you could enter in multiple information at one time. The great thing about QuickBooks is it is very universal, meaning you can import, especially from things like Microsoft Excel. You can copy and paste it into this form in this list. All right? You can even import Excel and have it populate in here exactly the way it is. Okay? But you obviously have to have that file ahead of time. Okay? You can even import things from Peachtree, SAP, whatever other accounting software that exists, you can convert and easily fuse it into QuickBooks or into it. It is that easy. So yes, the only difference is once you've converted it and stuff, you cannot convert it, export it out to Peachtree or any of that. So you can only import, you cannot export. The only option that they give you is you can export to Excel because Microsoft and QuickBooks, they collaborated with each other. They make it so feasible that you can use both programs interchangeably. Okay? So yes, so when we talk about list, you can import data in here or you can create the list yourself. Okay? Now, am I going to teach you how to import it? No, because that's actually more advanced level of QuickBooks that you should know if for future. Yes?
So, ma'am, if I already have my QuickBooks open, I can also create a worksheet or spreadsheet from Intuit or QuickBooks.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, is it going to work best for you? No. If you're going to create a spreadsheet using QuickBooks, you're better off just doing it through Microsoft. And then, because the thing is, like, when you add data in here, there are a few things that I will talk to you about. You can transport data out from QuickBooks, but it's not going to be as, it's not going to look as great as if you were to import from Excel to QuickBooks versus QuickBooks to Excel. And we'll talk about that when we talk about reports.
Thank you.
Okay. And then
Sorry, am I jumping on?
no, you're asking very great questions.
Thank you.
Okay. So here is going to be registers. Okay. And we'll talk about this in chapter 4 when we take a look at our first register. So if you guys been in accounting or are familiar with accounting terminology, I'm going to be talking about a ledger. Now, what does a ledger do? It allows you to create a list of your transactions for a particular account, and it lets you be able to have an account balance at the end of the day. So in this case, when I'm looking at this check register right here, this is a list of all the transactions that happened. Did I debit my account or did I credit my account? So in this case, it's credit on the left and debit on the right. So it's a little confusing here as well. But if I spent money, then it will list it right here. If I increased money, then it will list it right here, and it will always give me an account balance at every single transaction. Okay, so as you can see, we call this a ledger account. Now you can enter in all types of transactions using registers, and we'll talk about the difference between the registers tomorrow. Okay, we'll talk about which ones actually have registers and which accounts don't have registers. Okay, and it's very specific, right? And of course, you have items, which again, as you create your item list, you're able to use it in the form. So when you plug it in here, you're going to have what's called a drop-down menu. And when you have that drop-down menu, because every transaction that you put in here, especially when you create your items list, it will save you that much more time into entering things in forms, okay? And we'll talk about that especially in chapter 7 and in chapter 4 and as we progress through each chapter, okay? So items is going to be very, very important because if we create them, then it allows us to fill in our forms that much quicker. Okay? So items are going to be things that you sell or just in the sales process itself. But when we talk about customers and we talk about those kind of lists, they have the same kind of action too. But items, especially when you're dealing with inventory or billing your customers, items is going to be your primary function in all your transactions. Okay. And last but not least, QuickBooks Help. Now, for any reason that you run into a situation or you have trouble fixing or something's wrong with your program itself, that's where I'm gonna refer you to QuickBooks Help. So it is on your menu bar. It's at the very top, right? Just like every program, you have a help button. And what you can do is when you click on that help button, you have a few things that you can do. You have the option to ask an accountant. You can even ask an Intuit member to help you out with your situation, right? Call for tech support. You can update, which is, again, when we talked about releases, you're updating your program. You can come here and update it. Or you can upgrade your program from Pro to Premier to Enterprise, okay? So again, you can upgrade your program here as well, okay? And then, of course, you also have the standard frequently asked questions or that little help section that you can go ahead and look at there where you have the program guidebook, which is installed into the program. So you can go ahead and click that help button and type in, oh, I need help with this. Instead of talking to somebody, you can have, those frequently asked questions that can help you out there too. But again, this is where your go-to for anything that with your program that you have trouble with. So again, the Ask the Accountant is actually a subscription that you do need to actually pay for. So it's not like it just comes with the program. You do need to pay for that because they do take professional accountants and they seek one out and they have you talk to them, but it is a subscription that you have to pay. But for tech support, it is 100% free. However, they do have a tendency to not get you to the correct spot without having to spend hours with them. So you just have to be very patient if whatever you're asking for, if you need to fix something, they tend to be kind of helpful, but at the same time not be as helpful either, because they take almost a whole day just to figure out what is wrong with your program. Okay, so you just have to remember that the 24-hour tech support services can not give you results right away. Okay, but that's the help section there. Any questions in regards to chapter 1?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. So all right,
May I ask a question?
go for it.
Regarding the centers,
Okay.
to establish payroll, do you have a form?
To establish
Employees.
payroll.
Yeah.
Yes, and we'll talk about that in chapter 10 and 11.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So let's go ahead and go over the review questions. So at the end of each chapter, you're going to have a series of questions. In this case, I'm just looking at the multiple choice questions. If we have time, we'll go over the fill in the blank. But if not, then I wouldn't spend too much time on that as well. Those are practice for you for the rest, for what you want to do for the rest of trying to certify for the certification test preparations. So any extra examples or exercises, I am not going to do that. It's going to be something that you must do on your own. The only section that I am going to be reviewing with you is the multiple choice section, and this is where the in-class quizzes come from, okay? So number 1, okay, the fundamental accounting equation that governs all accounting is
C.
letter
C.
C is correct. Assets equals liabilities plus equity. If you know it as the other one, just make sure you read the questions carefully, okay? But most cases, this is the go-to accounting equation. Okay? Number 2, okay, which of the following statements is true?
C.
C. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, C.
So in this case, right, our debits must always equal our credits. That is correct, okay? But let's go ahead and explore the other options in here, okay? So letter A, debits are bad because they reduce income. Now, in this case, that is an opinion, right? But is all debits bad? I mean, they increase your cash flow. So would you consider debits are all bad? No, you wouldn't. And yes, it does decrease your income, but the question is, because the statement says that debits are bad because they reduce income. That isn't an opinion. It's not necessarily a true statement. Okay? Letter B, equity is increased by a net loss. Okay? If you're losing money into the company, your equity is going to drop, right? We talked about equity being the value of your company. So if you lost money, then therefore your company is going to lose value because you lost money. Okay, so in this case, is that statement true? No, it's not. Okay, and then last but not least, D says assets are increased with a credit entry. No, if you look at the accounting model once again, you're going to learn that assets are not increased by a credit. They are increased by a debit. So in this case, letter C is correct. Okay. Number 3, under the accrual accounting,
Is it B?
Let me see. Income and or expenses are recognized when a transaction occurs. Right? Anybody else? Yes, Brian, that is true. Okay, so in this case, right, a sale is not recorded until a customer pays, right? That sounds like cash basis, right? Because it has to be when a customer pay. In this case, we don't care. For an accrual type of basis, we don't care. We'll record it whether the customer gave me money or not. C says all expenses are not recorded until you write a check. Again, that sounds like a cash basis to me because you're waiting till you have the sufficient funds in order for you to pay for an expense. No, if the expense happened, whether you paid or not, you record it. So in this case, C is definitely not a correct answer. And D says you must maintain a separate accounting system. That has nothing to do with any of this entire thing. So that's definitely irrelevant. So B is the correct answer. Okay. Number 4, QuickBooks is
D.
D.
Yeah, D.
D. Okay.
The above.
All of the above is correct, right? We'll talk about job costing more so in chapter 2 and chapter 9. So job costing, what it does is when you have specific jobs that you make purchases for specific customers, that is what a job costing does, okay? Payroll system, we will talk about that in chapter 10 and 11 on how to set up payroll and how to pay your employees. So yes, it is a payroll system. And C, a double entry system. Yes, we talked about this. It does the accounting behind the scenes. It uses the debit and credit system which is the double entry system. So if there's an action, there's an equal opposite reaction, right? But us as a user, we use it as a single entry, okay? But QuickBooks is a double entry. So yes. And then last but not least, number 5, what is not a method of accessing the data entry screen? I only talked about 3.
Would it be D?
D. Okay, the question is not a method.
Menu?
Menu is one, right? We talked about that. It was top of the screen.
Oh, wait. Because we talk about menu, that
Did we talk about a data entry button?
No.
We did not. We did not talk about a data entry button. We talked about the home page, right, which is the graphic depiction. We talked about the left panel, which is your icon bar, and we talked about the top part, the gray part at the top, which is your menu bar. Those are 3 ways that you can navigate QuickBooks to enter in transactions. Okay? I never talked about a data entry button. There's no such thing as a data entry button. Okay? All right. So that concludes for today's lesson. Any questions in regards to chapter 1?